Hello. So we welcome you all to the Women in Chemistry Network's inquest. Today promises to be a wonderful one with our presenter, Dr. Fatima Amponsah. Let me tell you a bit about Dr. Amponsah. Dr. Amponsah is a lecturer and the head of department for the microbiology at the University for Development Studies, which is in Nyankpala, Ghana. She obtained her undergraduate studies in biological science from my esteemed Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. She went ahead to obtain a clinical microbiology in Master of Philosophy from KNUST and also her PhD in biochemistry from KNUST. She has had a lot of research experiences. She has worked for the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research, which is the KCCR. Currently, her research focuses on neglected tropical diseases such as lymphatic filariasis, schistosomiasis, among others. She has received an early career research award and grant from the Sickle Pan-African Research Consortium and then the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States. So, Dr. Fatima is an active member of the Royal Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene. She is a member of the Convention of Medical Biology Research Ghana and also a woman in STEM. With a clap offering, let's welcome Dr. Fatima Amponsah. Doc, your people, my audience, your doctor. So with the start, we would like to know a bit of you, your childhood, your background. Just tell us tidbits of your life. By the way, you look
Okay.
nice. Your wig. Best baby.
If I, Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Fatima Amponsah, as Madam Ifua rightly said. She wants to know a bit about my childhood. I will say I'm a Siano. I was born and raised in Ashanti region, and I have lived most of my life in Kumasi. And I think I did not some of my education, all of my education in Kumasi. I attended Airport International, Primary and JHS, went ahead to the Kumasi Academy, the only academy in Ghana. And later on, I came to K University for my undergraduate degree, continued with my master's, and my PhD followed. And I worked with KCCR for almost 6 years before joining the university. But then I would want to say that I am an immunomicrobiologist with expertise in parasitology, immunology, and molecular biology. And my main research focus is on neglected tropical disease and other infectious diseases. However, I also work on sickle cell and kidney diseases in children. And during my undergraduate, I was always intrigued about how pathogen and their host interact. So based on this, I pursued my master's and also my PhD in this area. But I want to say that I chose academia because academia is the only place where I'll be allowed to push boundaries, and this will be tolerated, and this will also be celebrated. So here I push boundaries to help solve health problems, to better the livelihood of people. And through this, I also use, I'm able to, synthesize complex data to train and also to teach our next generation. So in light of this, today work with me as we explore how climate influences the parasitic infection or diseases in women, especially in Ghana.
Thank you so much. I like your background, everything.
Thank you.
So we will attentively listen to you. And then after that, if you have any questions, we are going to ask you.
That's fine. Thank you very much. So I would like to start with, and also let our dear women know that self-care is not a selfish, venture. Because as a woman, you cannot serve from an empty vessel. So work with me through this talk as we uncover and unravel how parasite and climate can affect the health of a woman. I mean, the Ghanaian woman. Now, parasites, as we all know, are mostly microscopic. And as a microbiologist, I would say that we have some that are microscopic and some are not microscopic. But when you mention parasite, broadly, we can categorize them into the three main groups: the protozoa, the helminth, and the ectoparasite. Briefly, the protozoans are the single cell microscopic organism, and the examples include malaria, cryptosporidium, and others. When you come to the helminth, you have the large multicellular organisms, and some of them include tapeworm, roundworm, nematodes such as filaria worms, onchocerca volvulus, and others. But the one thing about the helminths is that you can see them. You can have the macroscopic view, and when they tend to the outer state, that is when you can see them. So you can see that somebody who is infected with helminths and the worms have reached the outer stage. Sometimes you can see them. If the infection is heavily loaded, you will see these worms in the fecal matter. However, the microscopic examination can only be done on their eggs. And the ectoparasites are the ticks, the fleas, and the lice. And these are the atropos. Now, what makes them more prevalent in our part of the world? One, because of our temperature. So I'll briefly touch on it later on. I'll explain it very well. And some examples of some parasitic disease and infection include lymphatic filariasis. I would give a little background of each one as we journey through. We have schistosomiasis, onchocerciasis, malaria, which we all know very common, leishmaniasis, and drunculiasis, which is the guinea worm infection. Now, the weather is what we see every day, but the climate or climatic data or climatic factor can be estimated over a very long period of time. So the average or the accumulated average of the weather measurement is what gives us what the climate. And this is normally over 20 years. And normally in our tropical regions, you would see temperatures exceeding 43 degrees Celsius. In the northern part of Ghana, this is very common, and sometimes you can have it even above 43 degrees Celsius. And what has been established is that these particular high temperatures favor parasitic infections or the parasite. How are they favored? It helps them to multiply faster, reach infectivity soon. That is the ability to infect somebody and also spread throughout the population. So this is what happens when the temperatures goes up. And you can see in the picture, about the first picture, we have, when you look at the portion A, you would see that this is a green field, but during extreme temperatures, you would see a severe drought and dryness in the area. And this is a short video that was covered by Al Jazeera in one of the rural areas in northern Ghana. So kindly watch briefly with me.
Weeks' time. But every day, she still walks up to 10 kilometers in freezing temperatures to search for water. The water problem here is really affecting everything. We spend all our days looking for water. One can't do any business to earn any income. Finding water in this part of Ghana has always been difficult. People rely on rivers, on lakes, or boreholes. But with little rain now for months, it's even more of a challenge.
The farther you go, the more desperate the situation. These people have been digging for hours in the dry riverbed just to find enough water to fill a bucket to take home. In the midday sun, temperatures are around 40 degrees Celsius.
The government began building small dams across the north of Ghana in 2017 when Nana Addo became president. The project was called.
Thank you for watching this video with me. So we can see the nature of water bodies our dear women are visiting for their domestic chores. We would see why this can affect their health as we journey through.
Weeks' time.
Now, I call them the unhealthy friendship because normally parasites are supposed to cohabit with us like a friend, but at a point in our lifetime or in their cycle, they can cause us harm. So I call them the unhealthy friendship. And as I said earlier, one of the parasitic diseases that is very endemic or is endemic in tropical countries or in the sub-Saharan is lymphatic filariasis. And lymphatic filariasis is caused by Wuchereria bancrofti, simply known as WB or W. bancrofti. And this is transmitted. The vectors are our normal mosquitoes. And what they do, they cause the enlargement of the limbs, upper limbs and the lower limbs. And sometimes they can even cause enlargement of the breast in women. So as a woman, if you have this disease, one, it reduces your self-confidence. It also renders you less productive. And also it can prevent you from having, relationship or marriage and enjoying and having a quality life. So these are some of the effects of lymphatic filariasis on a woman. The other is onchocerciasis, which is caused by Onchocerca volvulus. And normally Onchocerca volvulus causes onchodermatitis, atrophy, that is the skin aging more than it should. That is when you would see a 20-year or a 30-year-old lady and the skin would look like, excuse me to say, 60 or a 70-year-old woman. So that is atrophy. And also depigmentation. They normally call it the leopard skin. You see the portions of the limb, it can be the upper limb or the lower limb, peeling off and giving a leopard appearance. So all these renders the health of the modern day woman down, and it also affects their self-esteem, charisma, and confidence. Now, my main focus for today would be on schistosomiasis, and the reason is that among the neglected tropical diseases, we have so many neglected tropical diseases. Schistosomiasis is one of the most prevalent in the world, and globally, 250 million people were affected with schistosomiasis. And out of these 250 million people, 90% of the above population come from Africa. So it's a very serious issue here in Africa. And also, almost 1 billion people are at risk of infection. So there's the possibility of almost 1 billion people getting this infection. And what are some of the symptoms of this infection? Basically, in Africa, we have two main species causing infection. We have the Schistosoma hematobium and the Schistosoma mansoni. Schistosoma hematobium causes what we call the urogenital schistosomiasis. It affects your urethral system and affects the bladder, and it can also affect the genitals. And Schistosoma mansoni is basically intestinal, meaning it affects the intestine, causes intestinal disorders and others. But when this disease advanced to the latter cell, when they are advanced, schistosoma hematobium infection, that's urogenital schistosomiasis, develops into kidney dysfunction and even kidney damage, and also schistosoma mansoni, which is intestinal schistosomiasis, develops into liver fibrosis, among others. There are other complications like the neurological disorders and others. Now, what is the mode of transmission? One may ask. The main mode of transmission is contact with the cercaria. And what is the cercaria? When you look at the life cycle of the schistosoma parasites, the cercaria is the infective stage. The cercaria is the infective stage. So you have the egg, the cercaria. There are other stages, but then the cercaria is the main one. Cercaria and the adult. So they are the cercaria stage. When one gets contact with water body infested with the vector, and here the main vector is the water snail, the Bolinus species. When one gets contact with the water snail, then the cercaria can penetrate through the skin and enter either the bloodstream and also lodge in the appropriate organs or vessels and continue the infection. Now, when you visit most endemic areas in Ghana, you would see these are some of the scenes that you will see. One, girls and women fetching from contaminated dams, and also children who are swimming in contaminated dams, and also women, or it can either be a woman or a man who is attending to his or her livestock. Why livestock here? With schistosomiasis, we have the livestock schistosomiasis. We have the animal forms, and these are the schistosoma bovis. And mainly they infect our livestock. But then because of proximity, studies have shown that there is the possibility of schistosoma bovis infecting human beings. And normally when you come to the northern part of Ghana, feeding livestock and sometimes attending to them, cleaning their fecal matter is the main duty of women. So this shows how close women come in contact with the schistosoma bovis parasites. Now, in light of this, so this was a visit that we made to some of the communities in northern Ghana, and in light of this, we received an invitation to pitch at the FAO United Nations so that support could be attained to research and also dive more into these matters to find out the prevalence, because we needed to, before you can ask for any intervention, we needed to know the prevalence of schistosomiasis among these women, and also if there is a possibility of the crossing over, the livestock forms affecting human beings. So this was done, and in 2024, a progress report was delivered at the headquarters. Now, the study mainly was to link climate and women, the health of women with schistosomiasis in context, and also the target population of women of reproductive age. Why women of reproductive age? Studies have shown that when a woman is infected with schistosoma hematobium, there is the probability of the parasite egg being deposited in the genitals of these women, and this causes a condition called female genital schistosomiasis. And this particular condition is accompanied by a series of complications, which we are going to discuss as we move on. And the study was in the northern part of Ghana. So what are some of the predisposing factors for women in schistosomiasis endemic areas? One, high temperatures. Because of high temperatures, these women are subjected to sourcing for water from contaminated water sites. And by natural geographic, placement, the northern region is very difficult. The water table is low, so it's very difficult to even dig or construct boreholes for communities because of the nature of the water table. So these are some of the things that helps or that contribute and predispose women to getting or being infected with the disease. Another one is cultural rules. What do I mean by cultural rules? In most parts of the northern region, it is mainly or is solely the responsibility of women and girls to look for water for domestic purpose. So, and these areas are saddled with water issues. There are inadequate clean water options. So these women have no choice. These women and girls have no choice but then to visit these sites to fetch water for chores. And as they contact these contaminated water bodies, they are infected or cercaria penetrate, and then the life cycle of the parasite begins. And the life cycle of the parasite starts or is evident after 4 weeks, but then it can stay in a person for almost 10 years because the parasite would go into the adult stage and will continually be producing what their little ones or their larvae, which will continue the cycle. Then again, there is a particular intervention that was initiated by the World Health Organization called the Mass Drug Administration Program. And the Mass Drug Administration Program is normally for communities or countries endemic with neglected tropical disease, with schistosomiasis included. So when you come to the northern part of Ghana, this started in 2008 in most parts of the northern part of Ghana. But for some or where the study was specifically conducted, this particular exercise came to a halt in 2017. And normally during this particular exercise and after, there should be transmission assessment survey to ascertain whether transmission levels have gone down before one can certify elimination of the disease. But all these were not done in the district where the study was being conducted. So this was one of the reasons why we chose those districts. And then again, we've realized that the MDA normally or basically targets school-going children. So the question was, what about women? Because we have women getting in touch daily, getting in touch with the contaminated water bodies in their communities. So what about them? And the question or the response was the intervention was not enough to cover women, but for school-going children. And we have data that there is low turnout for girl child education in the northern part of Ghana. So as a lady or as a girl, when you are not privileged to attend school or be educated, that means you will be deprived of getting this treatment from the government. And this is a free treatment from the government. So the WHO brings the drug, and that government initiatives go around and share the drugs. We have community health volunteers in each district, and they are tasked with sharing the drugs in each community. So then that means as a girl child, when you are not privileged to attend school, there's the probability that you would not get access to this drug. And once you continually get in touch with the contaminated water body, you'll be building a very huge, buildup. There will be a buildup of the schistosoma parasite in your system. So you would see these girls having genital complication as they age. Now, from these studies, we realized that, or we recorded over 50% of the women were infected with schistosomiasis. We sampled over 400 women. We realized that over 50% of them had schistosoma hematobium infection. That is the species that causes the female genital schistosomiasis. And after that, once a person has schistosoma hematobium infection, that alone is not enough to indicate that the person has female genital schistosomiasis. By WHO standard, there should be gynecological examination. So all these women were taken or were arranged and transported to the district hospital, the Toulon District Hospital, for gynecological examination. And this was done by an expert gynecologist from the Tamale Teaching Hospital. And out of the 50% from the initial sample size that were infected with schistosoma hematobium infection, 29% of the women had severe genital complications. And the complications were abnormal blood vessels, bleeding, contact bleeding, homogeneous sandy patches, and grainy sandy patches. But then there was another part of the work where we interacted with them because through focus group discussion and one-on-one interview, and we realized or we observed that almost 30% of these women reported unsuccessful treatment at the clinics. Why is this happening? The reason being that when you go to the hospital and even interact with the health workers, you can say that out of 10 people, it's only 2 people who know something about female genital schistosomiasis. So anytime a woman comes to the clinic with genital complication, the first line of treatment that is being given is either antibiotic or antifungals. And because the underlying cause is not of bacterial or fungal origin, then treatment proved futile. So these women, some even went and brought medications that were given to them. So then we found, we tried to, find out if they knew something about schistosomiasis in their local language. All these were done with a translator. As we were talking, the translator was explaining or translating in their local dialect so that they could understand what we are trying to tell them or discuss with them. And we realized that almost 90% of them did not know anything about schistosomiasis, how it is transmitted, and even what causes that. So after the study, we went back and had a meeting with them and told them this disease is caused by their contact with the dam or the contaminated dam in their district. Also, we had climate data from the GMET in the northern regions, precisely Tamale, and we had data from as far back as 1990, and this data showed a sharp increase in temperature and also over a decline in rainfall when you look at the data from 1990 to 2024. So all these points out that yes, indeed, climate is playing crucial role in the transmission of parasitic diseases. And the irony is that the WHO indicated in 2020 wanted to declare schistosomiasis and other neglected tropical disease eliminated by 2020, but then this was not successful and reasons have been given. And so one of the main reasons now is to factor climate into the transmission and also coverage of the drugs, as I mentioned earlier. Now, does schistosomiasis affect the quality of women? And that is a big yes. As I've said earlier, when you come to sub-Saharan Africa, 56 million women suffer from female genital schistosomiasis. And the reason is that the parasite causing female genital schistosomiasis is only prevalent or is known to be prevalent in sub-Saharan Africa, and that is Schistosoma hematobium. So 56 million women suffer from this condition, and it has been estimated that in the next decade, if this is left untreated, we would have more than 20 million more girls joining this cohort, which doesn't look good, and something should be done about it. Now, how does it affect their life? When you look at the physical impact, it can affect them and cause a condition called dyspareunia. And this is painful or the experience of pain during sexual intercourse. Also, genital lesions and bleeding. When the parasite egg lodge in the genital, what they do is they cause lesions by burrowing into blood vessels, because these parasites also try to seek for blood, feed on the iron stores in the blood vessels. So as they are doing that, they cause lesion and it leads to bleeding. And also it can cause discharge and severe itching in these women. When you look at the sexual and reproductive health risks, one is infertility, because it can cause complication, ectopic, and also HIV transmission because of the lesions. When these women have sexual, encounters, it can lead to HIV transmission, and so these women are highly at risk of HIV transmission. And also pregnancy, they could have complicated pregnancies because of the presence of this condition. It could cause ectopic pregnancies and others. The next one, or the last one, is misdiagnosis and accusation. As I said earlier, when you go to most clinics or health facilities up here in the north, where we conducted our studies, we realized that most of the healthcare workers or the health workers have no idea about schistosomiasis, and this is because when you handle or you go through the manuals and also the course book that are used in teaching these health workers in school, you see that although we are in the endemic country, we are in an endemic country, you can't find evident or detailed explanation and also management strategy for this condition, female genital schistosomiasis, in their manual. So when they come to the field or when they are posted and they start working and encounter such conditions, they normally treat it as sexually transmitted disease or either fungal or bacterial infection. And so it leads to misdiagnosis and accusation. And accusation because the symptoms of female genital schistosomiasis sometimes looks like sexually transmitted disease because of dyspareunia, genital lesions, and the others. It can lead to accusation that probably a partner had cheated or has cheated on his or her partner. And also, it can also prevent one from having intimacy with the partner because of the pain that the person will go through during the process. Now, what are some of the solutions to improve the health of women, especially in the northern parts of Ghana? One is praziquantel for MDA annually by including women. We should make it a point, or policy should be reviewed so that women can be included in the mass drug administration, which is done annually in our communities. And this should be done by also including livestock, because we know we have the schistosoma bovis, which is also very prevalent in Africa and could pose zoonotic disease. So livestock, precisely because we live with them in our community. When you come to the north, and when you go to the rural areas, almost every household has, livestock in the household, which means they interact with them and their fecal matter, they have contact with their fecal matter and their urine. And some even use it for as manure or organic fertilizer for their farm. So this shows how close they come into contact with. So inclusion of women in MDA and also inclusion of livestock in the mass drug administration program. And also there should be a policy or guideline to follow after several rounds of MDA so that we can perform transmission assessment surveys to certify elimination or to certify whether the threshold of the infection has gone down before we can stop the administration of the drug. We shouldn't just jump into conclusion that, we've administered maybe 3 or 4 or 5 rounds, and by assumption of that, the infection has gone down. Another one is potable and segregated water systems for these communities. When you go to most of these communities, you would see humans and livestock drinking from the same contaminated water source because that is the only option. The livestock also need water. The humans also need water. So they have no choice to go to the muddy, contaminated water body to fetch. Livestock also have no choice but to go there. So as they interact, the livestock also, as they are drinking, they leave their fecal matter, it gets into the water, and that be the zoonotic infection or zoonotic schistosomiasis infection. So there should be potable and segregated water system for humans and for animals. And this is what I would advise modern day women to do. So what I would say is that there should be intentional schistosomiasis check. Intentional being that when you go to our clinics, we don't intentionally check for schistosomiasis infection, although we do the wet mount for other parasites, but then we don't intentionally check for schistosomiasis. And I believe we should make it a point for women to check for schistosomiasis because of how it can affect our genitals. And the reason being that it can also affect men, but then the severity is far higher in females than in males. And this is because of the nature of our reproductive system. And also there should be gynecological checks. Once a while, you have to visit your gynecology to check, especially when you see any of these symptoms: breast lumps, irregular periods, pelvic pain, abnormal discharge, and painful intercourse, which is the dyspareunia, which I spoke of. When you see some of these symptoms, you don't have to relent. You have to visit the gynecologist to find out what is going on. And when you do the schistosoma hematobium check, then you would know whether you are positive or negative. The good thing is that this particular condition is treatable once you start taking the drug praziquantel, which is the drug of choice approved by WHO for treatment of schistosomiasis. It can reverse the condition because these are parasites. So once you take to clear the parasite, over time, you clear the infection and they would be out of your system, and whatever condition you have in your genitals or in your reproductive system, once you take other secondary drugs or treatment, you will be able to recover. So this condition is treatable. So these are some interactions that we had with participants from the communities. You see that there are some dams where fishing, the women and men fish, or fishing is done. So you see the women get in touch with the water, one for domestic choice, for trading, and we also have kids in the community who enjoy swimming in these contaminated water bodies, and they would urinate, or sometimes they can even defecate in the water body before leaving there. And if some of these kids have schistosoma parasite in their system, they leave it in there. So as women come and fetch for domestic purpose, the cercaria, which is the infective stage in the water snail, gets out of the water snail and penetrate the skin of these women and cause infection. I would like to acknowledge this organization for their support for this research. I would like to leave on this note that self-care is not selfish. And I would want to also title this talk "A Love Letter to Women." Please, we shouldn't forget ourselves. We should make self-care a habit. And we shouldn't forget that parasites can, cause some of the complicated, situations or diseases or infirmities in our bodies, to a point that we might even forget that they can do that. So we should all be aware that parasites and climate have a nexus, and they can influence our genital health or our reproductive health. So we should pay attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima Amponsah Fordjour. Wow, this is alarming. Thank you and the team for this study. In fact, it's giving me goosebumps. And thank you too for sharing with us as a community. Thank you so much. It's educative and it is eye-opening. I have a series of questions, but I would want the audience to give a raise. You raise your hand if you have any questions for Dr. Fordjour. And my question is, Doc, is the screening, how is it done? Because the normal gynecology, you go there, they take a smear and then culture it and tell you that this was there, this was in there. As you are saying, I don't really hear of schistosoma in the genital. So how is that done so that we'll be conscious enough? And when we go and it's not being done well, we'll know that, okay, what you are doing, schistosoma is not part. Can you please include it for us?
Yes, thank you very much for your wonderful question. That is why I ended on the note that there should be intentional schistosoma or schistosomiasis check. Because when you go to our hospitals, our routine, we don't check, but the complications are alarming and very detrimental. So what we have to do is, if they are not, we have to start asking for it. And there should be education, which we've already started, especially in the rural areas. Because when you come to the urban areas, people normally visit hospital, but when you go to these rural areas, it's very difficult, or hardly would you see somebody going to the hospital if the person is sick. The person will just go behind his or her house, pluck some leaves, and whether the leaves can heal whatever situation he or she is going through. So when you know that you are schistosomiasis positive or negative, that is what will influence your next line of action. If it is positive, then you need gynecological check. And the reason why we should be intentional about this is because in Ghana, most of us grew up in areas with water bodies, riverine areas. And at the point, even if your parents were not allowing you to go and swim, once a while when they are not around, you go and step inside. And this condition just comes about with stepping into the water, and the secarea will penetrate. And they can live in your system for more than 10 years. Recently, about 2 years ago, there was a situation with an elderly woman, over 60 years. She visited a private hospital in Kumasi. And this private hospital, the medical doctor in charge has a solid background in parasitology. So anyone who comes to his clinic, he does most of the parasitological checks with schistosomiasis included. He did, and schistosomiasis was positive. But yes, so this is a woman who lives in a plush house, eat what she wants. She visits the hospital regularly. So then it answered some of the situations, some of the conditions she was going through. One of the symptoms of schistosomiasis is what we call urticaria. So you see rashes. When you are there, you see that there will be raised bumps. You will be scratching your body. It will go, but it will be resurfacing from time to time. So then this woman started getting treatment, which is the praziquantel. So we have to be intentional. So as I said, if you check and you have schistosomiasis, the next line of action is gynecological check. So that means you'll be going with that particular lab note. So you should be helping your gynecologist, because as I said, we don't have detailed management strategy in their handbooks when they were in school. It's not there. They will just touch on it, but they don't go into detail. That is why it's the mandate of researchers such as yourself and myself, and we all to, dive deep into matters in our communities or in our environment so that we can help solve some of these problems. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you so much. I have other questions, but those ones I'll see you and then we talk about it.
Sure, that's fine.
Please, is any of our audience ready to ask a question? I'm not seeing any hand up. If you would like to ask something about the presentation, kindly raise your hand. All right, I'm not seeing hands. So I would like to know the schistosomia, those that are acquired when you step in the water, is it that they metamorphose and then goes to the genital to cause this genital schistosomia, or how is that? I want to see the clear difference.
Okay, just like a human being. I don't know what can I continue?
Yes.
Okay, just like a human being, when a baby is born, the baby goes through the life cycle to the adulthood. These parasites also they do same. So the transmission, let me pick it up from the infective or the egg stage. So once somebody sheds the egg through fecal matter, when you come to Ghana, especially the northern region, we have there are rampant cases of open defecation. So once somebody defecates, the parasites are in the stool or in the urine, They are washed to these water bodies. And I mentioned that the water snail is the intermediate host. So these eggs get to the intermediate host, spend some time there, grow into the cercaria that I'm talking about. And when the cercaria is ready, just like when a woman is pregnant and the 9 months is due, the woman, whether the woman likes it or not, the baby has to come out. So when the cercaria, attains, maturity, it comes out, or the water snail sheds the cercaria, and the cercaria becomes free living in the water body. So anybody who steps or get in touch with the water, then the cercaria penetrates the skin. When the cercaria penetrate the skin, at the point it has a tail, the tail will be shed, and it's called schistosomula. So then it goes through the system, it enters the circulation, but then it has a particular place that it wants to stay. When it pick the schistosoma mansoni, those parasites would want to stay around the liver. That is why they are able to cause liver fibrosis at the advanced stage. But when you take the schistosoma hematubium that causes urogenital schistosomiasis, they would want to stay in the urethral system and in the bladder. That is why they cause urogenital schistosomiasis. So in these organs or vessels, they attain maturity into the adult worm. So it's the adult worms that also, reproduce again, produce the eggs. So once that person defecate or urinate, you would find the eggs in the and the cycle continues. So that is how they maneuver their way through the host or their host.
All right. So with these microbes, do we have pure isolates? As a microbiologist, do we have pure isolate available? If I come to you that I want an isolate, pure isolate, can I get? This
Okay.
is to those that would like to probably go into collaborations with you for research purposes.
Because they are parasites, normally you don't can't culture them. But what you can do is that you can, if you want to have the live form, or you can have the live or the dead form. The dead form is in urine. You can go for urine sample, centrifuge the urine, or sometimes you can even filter, and you can identify them through microscopic examination. That I mean the eggs of the parasite. Yes, but pure isolate. If you want the living or the life forms, you can do instant microscopy. As in, once you have the sample, then you have to do it on the field. Just like Victoria Bancroft, you can do night blood, service, and you see the worms wriggling under the microscope. The microscope, sorry. Yes,
Okay.
but yes, you can have them. We have them there, but then they are not live anymore. So if you want to do any DNA or molecular or RNA work, yes, you can do with those samples.
But if you want to act on the live ones, they can be alive for you to work on them.
Yeah, you can get the live one. Then you have to go through certain protocols to get them, because they are very difficult to get them. They are not like bacteria that we can culture and keep in our freezers and even revive them. No, the parasites are complicated. They are multicellular. That is how come they can even evade our system, because under normal circumstances, our immune system is supposed to identify them and clear them, but then because they are multicellular, they are able to evade our immune system, evade our Th1 and Th2 immune system, and continue their life cycle. Although our body system or the immune system will clear some, but some will still be in the body.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Since yesterday I've been having some bumps. I don't know. I thought it was mosquito that's biting me, but now you are.
No, I'm sure it's mosquito. Don't be alarmed. Don't be alarmed.
No, I have to go and check.
That's why I said I gave, I mentioned, or I ended on the note that this is treatable. So nobody should be afraid. You just have to take praziquantel, but don't take without checking first. Get checked. Some people even get the infection, schistosoma hematobium infection, but don't have the genital complication. We vary when you check our immunogenetics. We vary how my body will respond to a particular infection wouldn't be the same as yours. So I can have with the infection, but no genital complication. One other person can have the infection and have genital complication.
We
And the
have other
solution
two
is,
hands up. I'd
is
like to
that
take those ones. I said we have
okay?
some, and then with our time, we will have to.
Sure,
Um,
that's fine.
Prof, hello, mommy, our wisdom
Hey,
president.
hello
Prof.
there. How
Mrs.
are you?
Ibokodo is around. She wants to ask a question.
Yes,
Welcome,
yes.
mom.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, this is a very good presentation. My mind is just asking, should we start this lecture from the junior people? Because I only saw pictures of the matured adult women. What should we do to extend it to the lower so that they start preparing and making sure they don't get into this trouble? Is it the possibility of doing that? Thanks.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Prof. I am very excited for your presence here and for your question. I'm greatly honored. Yes, Mom. Yes, there were pictures of also the younger ones, and I mentioned that in northern region is the sole responsibility of girls and women, and the issue it becomes an issue when the girl child is not in school. Then that means even the praziquantel or the drug for school going children, they are denied of that. So what we've started here is that we shared our findings with the district health directorate, and we have already started with the education and sensitization in the schools. We've already done some. There are still more schools to go to. But the baseline is even if we have to tell them what leads to this condition. And also, we all have roles to play in this. The district has a role to play by providing drugs through the government. The communities also have roles to play by keeping their sanitation or the environment clean, stop open defecation, and also probably the government and other NGOs can come in and help with clean water options. Because if these women have clean water options,
Other options.
they wouldn't go into this contaminated water body. So
Right.
yes, we need to start the awareness from the junior level so that it will help protect our girls. Thank you,
All
Mom.
right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next question will come from Rabbi. That's the name I'm seeing here. Hello, Rabbi. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Okay. Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. Very insightful presentation. I didn't join early, but I'm glad I did, and I've really learned a lot. I think I am a bit familiar because I live in the northern region. Some of the the pictures I saw, I am very much familiar with them. And one typical example that got me quite scared is that my mother lives in a community where it's been almost 8 to 9 years they don't have potable water. Every now and then when I visit, they have to buy water from what do you call it? What they sell in gallons, and it is usually the untreated water. And they could get potable water, but someone has to bring it from town to sell to them. And I would insist that even the one they would buy from the whether they bought it from town, which they call potable, which I always don't trust the quality, or the one they are buying from the untreated water they are buying, they should add alum to take away the mud, and also to add chlorine to it. And then what scared me actually is the symptoms of the infection. And I think I have seen a few around them, per what Doc mentioned. But I wanted to know, to test it, can you just walk into any lab and test for the infection?
Schistosomia,
Yeah, the
parasite.
parasite infection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can any
Yes,
lab do it? Or do you have special labs, or there are specialized people who can run those tests for you?
thank you very much, Robbie, for your question. I would say the irony is that the test or the diagnosis for schistosoma parasite is very simple. It's the basic one or the standard or the one the WHO has approved, with every disease, we have standard diagnosis. It's microscopy. We just need a microscope. And with microscope, most of our labs have microscopes there. So yes, you can walk into any lab and ask them to check for schistosoma parasite. With identification, as for that one, they know how to do it. But just that policy should be included in this so that we can make it routine, especially for women, looking at how this complication affects the reproductive system. So yes, you can walk into any hospital. And also the application of alum does not remove these parasites. Yes, it doesn't. So that is
Yeah. What about the addition of chlorine? Because
it,
these are the two key treatments they use to treat the water.
We have
they, they don't. I think we did a similar work on cryptosporidium, which is also a very deadly protozoan parasite. Water that was treated with alum and chlorine, the cryptosporidium parasite were still there. So I would say that they can remove a portion, but it's not significant.
all right.
Okay, but
Next
then
question.
please, can I just with what water the Ghana water treats? Do they have? Okay, I can't get that answer, but I think they also do these two key treatments more
Okay.
in addition to filtration. So it means that if these are the two key treatments they do in addition to filtration, it might mean that we are also not safe even drinking potable water.
I didn't want to mention it, but since you've brought it, which is a huge policy thing in Ghana. In Ghana, most of the procedures that is used by the Ghana Water Company for treatment does not include parasitic treatment. That is the truth. It doesn't, but just that at the end of the day, it removes some form of parasite because at the filtration level, depending on the size of the filter, that is, the kind of parasite that you can sieve because each of the parasite they have their sizes. So if let's say schistosoma hematobium can pass through the filter, then it will still be in the water. So we don't have any key step. I don't know whether they have updated their system, but the one that I know of, there is no, or the one we know from our educational handbook, there is no key parasitic treatment stage. But then for, bacteria, coliforms and other things, because of the alert, so they are very particular about that. They do that and for fungal and other things.
All right. So we'll take our next question from Miss Falilatu.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Dr. Fordjour, thank you for an enlightening presentation. Please, my question is, in your research, did you find maybe a link between FGS and then cancers that affect the female reproductive system? Does it increase susceptibility to maybe cervical cancer or uterine cancer or others? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Falila. Yes, I mentioned that when these women are affected, they have genital lesions and bleeding, and this bleeding can predispose them to HIV infection. I didn't add HPV infection. We know that HPV infection can cause cervical cancer. But as of now, schistosomiasis has already been there for over 4 decades. But then the female genital schistosomia just came, was unraveled not more than 2 decades ago, even less than that, especially on the African continent. So yes, studies are still ongoing to bring a strong link between female genital schistosomiasis and cervical cancer. But with HIV transmission and HPV infection, it has already been established that yes, it predisposes these women to, or they predispose these women to this infection.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right. Thank you, Doug, for the answers. We have one last person. So one last question, and then we will continue. Miss Judy, can you please unmute and ask your question?
Okay, thank you very much. I didn't join early, but I just have a submission. I was thinking with regards to the sensitization, I was thinking that aside it's being targeting like girls at the primary level, can it also can you also target the churches or some focus groups, especially in the local areas they have a lot of these information centers where you talk about them in various languages so that people get to be aware of what is happening around them, because most of the time they are not aware of what is happening, especially with regards to their body. And then you will advise them that periodically they go for checkups with regards to whatever. Yes, so that's my submission. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Judith. Yes, when it comes to a fight against schistosomiasis, there are roles to be played by each stakeholder. I mean, there are stakeholder involvement in there. One from the government, one from the community, or I mean the individuals, one from NGOs and others. So about going to check regularly. To be frank, in Ghana, when you go to our rural areas, especially the northern region, it's very difficult telling somebody there that go for regular checkup. So what we have to do is educate them to refrain from open defecation. That is, each and everyone should play his or her role. Refrain from open defecation. Then government and NGOs come in, provide potable water. Then government and district come in and give treatment. So you see the chain of cycle. When we can say that is the truth. When you can only say this in the urban areas, I can tell you, oh, Judith, go for checkup, go and check schistosomiasis. But when you go to these rural areas, sometimes even they complain about livelihood and other things. So going to them wouldn't be telling them to go for checkup wouldn't be the right approach to, reduce transmission. But then educating them that as you defecate or you defecate openly in the community, you are whatever is in your fecal matter still goes back to the water that you fetch daily for domestic purpose. So please refrain from it. Get a place of convenience for the community. And I think they will be playing their role. So we have to be, preparing what to tell each stakeholder so that we can combat the disease in a whole. Other than that, we will be running around in cycles and we wouldn't have any impact.
All right. So thank you so much, Doc.
Okay.
In the comment section, great presentation. It's informative. Well done. A whole lot. Just commending your presentation. But we have one question here
Thank you.
from Miriam. It says, I'm a meteorology and climate science student, and I did my final year project on climate impact on schistosomiasis. I didn't focus on different species and how each affects differently. So I want to know if knowing how each works is important in solving the problem.
Yes. It's very important, as I mentioned. Normally, we have 5 main species causing schistosomiasis in the world. But when you come to Africa, only 2 are important to us. And I normally tell my students, when I'm handling parasitology, I wouldn't be there going for parasites maybe in Asia first. I should be talking about parasites that are endemic in Africa and Ghana before I can tell you about others in other places. So yes, we have Schistosoma hematobium and Schistosoma mansoni. I earlier explained that the mansoni causes intestinal schistosomiasis. So if you are handling them right from diagnosis, it will be different. For mansoni, you would need the stool of an individual to diagnose. And for hematobium, you would need the urine of an individual. And it is known that is the hematobium that causes the female genital schistosomiasis. So that is what I can say for now. But at the molecular level, you would need special protocols to identify them and work on them.
All right. So thank you so much to our audience. and to everybody. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our convener in the person of Professor Marian Asantuan Kansa, and then assistant convener. She's a big sister, Dr. Latifa. We would like to also, all of us, acknowledge our big mother, Prof. Mrs. Ibokodro. She asked a question, and all others that are present. And if I'm not seeing you, don't worry. When I go through the names, I see Manuela, some I know, some I don't know. Thank you all for coming. At this point, our convener will give us the last message, a closing remark. Thank you.
All right, so it's good evening to you all for making time for this sixth edition of the inquest. And let me say a very big thank you to Dr. Fordjour for graciously of the sixth edition of the inquest. As always, we acknowledge our working members and associates. Prof. Fordjour has been mentioned. I see Prof. Osei as well as everyone else, Dr. Aja and everyone else who has joined. I see our male mentees, mentors and allies, some also joining. That is what makes Wiccan unique. I see Joseph Laye and others. So every one of you, Emmanuel Amwako, who has joined out of interest of the topic, out of interest of what Wiccan does, you are very much appreciated. Let us look forward to the 7th edition, which will come off September. Details will be announced as the day gets closer or nearer. And as I indicated in the chat, kindly share your thoughts, the learnings you've done with others on social media, and don't forget to tag the Women in Chemistry Network as you do so. Thank you all. Have a good night and God bless you all.
Amen. And
Amen.
then thank you all for coming. So see you in September for our 7th edition. Bye-bye.
Bye.